So you can see that characteristic green flame if you watch the videos on the internet. And this TEB actually ignites, explodes really more in contact with air. We would carry barrels of this stuff about this big in the back of the tanker back in the day when we weren't quite as smart about safety as we should have been. And we've had people die just transporting barrels of this stuff in the tankers. The reason we are transporting it is because sometimes an SR-71 will have to abort and land at a base where it doesn't have facilities. Like, it was a fairly common story that the SR-71 would take off out of Beale, see a problem with the aircraft, and land at Hill. Then we would have to fly a tanker over here along with the TEB and whatever ground equipment they needed here at Hill to recover the SR and bring it back to Beale. So some people have said, why do you guys have an SR-71 in your museum? You never had them here. You did have them here. You have them here too often, actually. So, very, very fast, high speed means that through the whole history of the SR-71, we never were able to find a sealant that would keep these tanks sealed. That shiny stuff is fuel leaking out of the bottom of that SR-71 right after it has retracted its gear on takeoff. So, you're sitting there in a tanker out on the ramp getting ready to go take off because you're the 2 or 3 ship tanker formation that is going to refuel him when he gets back from his mission. The tankers that are refueling him when he takes off are already up there waiting for him because he is sitting there on the ramp dripping JP7 like crazy, and he's got to get out there to the end of the runway, take off, get up to that first tanker now and get refueled, or else he's not going to have a mission. And as soon as he backs away from the tanker, he gets to speed as fast as he can so that titanium will expand and fill in all of those gaps and seal in the fuel. But on the ground, the titanium is shrunk because it's cooler and the fuel is leaking out. It's really quite a sight to see. There's another picture of it. Just after takeoff, the wheels are just coming up, and all that shiny stuff is the fuel that was dripping out. Nice. This is where the tanks are located, just to give you, those are fuel tanks. So, this is an SR-71 that is just pulled away from the tanker, and the sealant that they would use would last 2 or 3 sorties. So it looks to me like this had just gotten new sealant because there isn't a lot of fuel leaking out the top. But basically, we were always able to tell when he had gotten enough fuel because we could see it coming out. Okay, he's full. And they would do pressure disconnect. And pressure disconnect was, I'm not going to tell you to shut off the fuel when we reach a certain number. I'm going to go ahead and let the pressure building up in the pipe at the receiver receptacle disengage. So that means I've gotten every last ounce of fuel I can get before I disconnect. And then that little door closes and he gets to speed as fast as he can.
That's why I've seen pictures. As they disconnect, it looks like a pond of water just comes out of that thing. Yeah. But it vanishes instantly because, yeah.
So during the refueling, we have 2 or 3 tankers and they're all flying approximately, almost line abreast. Because he's trying to look out that window and see the tankers and make sure he doesn't hit them while he comes up behind them to get his fuel. Because he's got that spacesuit on, he's got tiny windows, he's got to be able to see the tankers and know where they are. Because as soon as he gets his fuel, he's going to go to the next tanker, get some more fuel, and then take off. And he uses a lot of fuel with these afterburners. This is a beautiful sight. I wish I had a picture of a takeoff where he's hit his afterburners on takeoff. You can see these little diamond standing waves, yeah. And when it hits the runway, it bounces off the runway and you can still see the little diamond waves. Every Tuesday night at Beale was the training night for night flying. And so I would go out in my backyard and watch the SR take off around the sunset. And I knew exactly what it was, and it still looked like a UFO to me.